Jai Ma Kali. Narayan, Narayan. Jai Ma. What did we do last? Mantra-śuddhi. Oh, we didn't do that. Oh, okay. There we are. Swamiji? Jai Ma. Om Sarvamangala-mangalyam Varenyam Varadam Shubham Narayanam Namaskritya Sarvakarmani Sakharayet. Om Sarashiva-samarambam Shankaracharya-madhyamam Ashmaracharya-prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam. Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta-brindebhyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam. Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarva-dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Gurudeva Maheshwara Gurudeva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Bhadrakalin Monitam Saraswati Namo Namaha. Jai Ma, a little bit nervous day with the fires burning around us. You saw the smoke? No, yeah. Yeah, top of the world has been evacuated. And it's near Soka University. So we're watching. Yeah. So there's a pretty, we can see the smoke from here. From here you can see it. We'll have to watch how the day goes. We're praying for everybody's safety. So we're continuing. I think this is our seventh discussion on the introduction to the Kali Puja. Kind of a bird's eye view of some of the practices of the ritual practices of tantric puja, specifically the puja we're doing here. Loosely going through the small book, our simple Kali Puja book, some of the main points that are there. This book is only a few, it's like 15 pages, 20 pages long. So we're kind of taking a larger view, kind of describing the puja that we do. The daily puja here is a little more elaborate. We call it here the Nitya Kali Puja, the puja done daily in the temple. So it has a few more aspects of it. Each section is expanded. And what we did last week, we talked a lot about the different categories of purification. And then specifically, we talked about purifying the paraphernalia of worship, the deity, and I think we ended with purification of the mantra-śuddhi. So the next section is called Vahni-prākārcintā. Chinta. Chinta means thinking. This is Chinta means imagining or thinking about a circle of fire. So this is very cool. So now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Okay, well. Also, the last thing I was looking some look online, and one verse from the Ashtavarta Gita came, may the forest of our ignorance be burnt by the fire of knowledge of Brahman. It's like, I don't like these. Anyway, there's a theme right now. And let's hope, keep it symbolic and subtle, not so gross. So this is another aspect, because a lot of the things we've been doing is about purification, and also and along with purification is also protection. We talked about the Kavacha mantra that we at the beginning, the Kali Kavacha that's chanted, and also the sealing of the quarters of the directions like this. There's another aspect, and what it is, we imagine a ring of flames around us, a protective ring of flames. And you can see there's a lot of, it's, in a certain sense, this is also creating a yantra. We talked last week about the directions being also like putting ourselves in the center of a yantra and creating our geometrical space with us in the center or Ma in the center. So there's another thing. It's another type of, we've sealed the center, but this is also another protective level. And the idea, as modern people, we don't always think. We don't have that much concern about like entities and energies and ghosts and demons and rakshasas and yavanas and siddhas and kanadas and nagas. It's like there's long lists of these what's that? Semi-divine beings. That's sometimes you see that translation as semi-divine beings, right? But we have, and so maybe the contemporary and modern, we really think we give them psychological meanings, right? We have to protect against, our lust and anger and greed, and that's okay, and that's maybe a really good way to think about it, and a way to keep these things relevant, right? But we can also think that the tradition comes, it's a traditional practice, it comes with traditional worldview. And the traditional worldview is a sacred worldview of a multidimensional universe, right? Where we talked a few weeks ago about where worlds meet, where the physical world, the astral world, the heavenly world, the divine world, all these meet. There's a tirtha, the places where these places meet. A temple is definitely one such tirtha. You can, where the Deva world, especially the Deva world and the earthly world meet, but also many, many worlds meet. Just recently there was a yogi who came. I'm forgetting his name just now. Very nice yogi. And sometimes it's nice because we live in our own little insulated world, where it's like we're a little echo chamber. We associate with like-minded people with a similar view of spirituality and like that. So it's sometimes nice for a traditional person from the outside with a different worldview. And everything he was talking about. Oh yes, this is very good for the astral beings, and you need to create a seat for the astral beings. And Ma has her gunas. Right, they need a proper place. It's like oh yeah, I forget. That's actually a really traditional way of thinking. We don't think about this thing all the time, and we used to a little bit more when we had more of that influence, right? But some of these practices, that's their primary meaning is protect literally against you create a fence, a real astral fence. And I think even like in some Western magical traditions, they draw a circle with salt, or you draw God's names around you to protect. There's some idea like that. This is the same type of thing, right? And so, and what we do, it's a very simple thing. You take a little bit of water in your hand and you chant the mantra for water, the mantra for fire. The mantra for fire is Ram, right? And you pour it kind of in the counter-clockwise circle around you. Sometimes people just pour it this way, or some people will actually with kind of wet fingers actually draw a square or circle around them, a closed circle around them, and then it says chinta, and imagining when this is done that there's literally a circle of fire around you. And some think, well, why are we making a circle of fire with water? You're using water to make a fire, right? Because it's obviously water is not the enemy of fire in a certain sense, right? We're careful how we use water around fire. But the water is simply being used as a medium, and the fire is not the physical manifestation of fire, it's the mantric fire. And the mantra, the name of something, but not even the name of something, the sound of something, the natural sound of something, the bij, the vibrational nature of fire, is more fire than fire. Fire actually, it's like it says, like the Upanishad says that fire is in wood, right? So when you create a situation where, as we're seeing just around over the hill there, fire is coming out of wood, right? The potential is there. So in a certain, that's its most, when something's burning, It's its most gross manifestation, right? It's the least. It's the most external aspect of something, right? The most dramatic, and actually the most fleeting. When something burns, it burns and it goes out, right? It becomes ash, you know. So the invocation of the mantra, it's not actually like you can also like candles around. You make a you know, some circle of flames around you, but doesn't seem to be necessary. It's like the mantra is more fire than fire, how we can think of it. It's like the vibration is primary, the thought is primary, the mantra is more fire than the word. Just in a certain sense, we have ideas of God, but we don't know what but the name of God for us is more God than God. Our idea of God is one thing. The name immediately, the mantra, the bij mantra, have more power until we have that, at least at our level, right? And it's very simple. You do the thing, and then you imagine. It says it gives instruction to imagine a circle of flames around you, a protective circle of flame, stopping any inauspicious influence, any vibration, any astral, ghostly, any type of influence. And so it's just in the mind, right? But it's interesting when we look at Sri Ramakrishna's life. Sri Ramakrishna was also a priest, right? He did puja. He did the Kali Puja for many years. And he was trained in the traditional worship of Kali Puja. And so when we look at this chapter in the Lila Prasanga, the Ramakrishna and his divine player, the great master, Swami Bhajanananda, he gives many. I was looking for it the other day, and for some reason I couldn't find a section. Whenever nowadays in my old age I look for something, I can't find it anymore. But it's been there. I've read it 100 times, and except for preparing for this class, now I can't find it. But it's he describes his own, like his practices, both as part of his sadhana and his work as a pujari. And in it he did it, but everything he did, one thing you can say, he was an intense personality, and therefore he took things to an extreme or had an extreme realization of everything. But another thing, he saw we don't have the mind to see what's really happening. He may have had a pure enough mind to see what actually happens. We believe, or we imagine, we hope that something happens. He saw something happening. So when he'd do this, ram, 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 right, he'd see the flames in his mind. But so much so that it got hot, right? And then pretty soon he'd be like surrounded by flames. And then he claimed that this is true, this is what we hear, that the hairs of his arms would start to burn. And the smell of he'd smell the burning hair. This could be just an extremely powerful concentration, and the visualization was so real. Or in his mind, him saying Ram 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 created an astral fire that had this effect, right? It's very interesting because it's like things that we believe or we imagine, he experienced and saw them as real. So it shows the type of purity and intention and concentration we need to have such an experience. That's one thing. But it also shows the reality of what we're practicing. It's not just imagination. It's something really happening, right? And then there's another thing called dehamārjana. This is the protection, purification, protection of the deha. Deha means the body. Deha means dehinam. This is the name for a human being. The very common name for a human being is an embodied person, right? Because here we wouldn't be without a body. I mean, without a body or at least an astral body, if not a physical body. What are we? Right. Actually, the Parashuram, the Kapila Sutra, not Kapila. What's that? We did that tantric text some time ago. What was it called? Kapila. It was Parashuram spoke it. I'm forgetting just now. we worked on it a lot. We worked on it for 2-3 months. You know, I have those recordings somewhere. Okay. Anyway, but there's a great line that says that actually covered by the body, by the bodies, by the dehas, or used like that. Shiva is jiva, right? The supreme consciousness is a person, acts as a person, as an individual, and uncovered jiva is Shiva, right? So another word for an individual or a jiva is somebody that's been sheathed or covered, right? Embodied, either in a physical body, but our physical body, again, just like fire, is the most gross manifestation of many, many other types of subtle body. We know that system of the 5 koshas, covering, that type of idea. So deha. So this is the purification of the dehas, of the bodies, and it's done 3 times. This is a simple thing. You pass your hand over. You'll see during puja somebody doing like Om Swaha or Om Kring Swaha. Here we do it with the bij mantra, Om Kring Swaha, Om Kring Swaha, Om Kring, or different priests have their own style, like this, and so I've seen people do this, whatever it is, and it's done 3 times. I've asked several tantrics about why it's done 3 times, and the answer is there's not affirmative, authoritative answer, but they said it's for the 3 bodies, the main, the physical body, the subtle body, and the astral, something like that. The 3 worlds. We have this type idea, this trinity. Or it could also be some people have given that. It's the mind. It's the body, the mind, and speech. That's a common thing. Also, what we do with our hands, with our body. What we do with our tongue. What we do with our mind. Manas, vacha, karmana, like this, right? So dehamārjana, and then ātma-raksha. Ātma-raksha means a protection of the self. And atma, we mentioned last week. Atma means many things according to what's in context. Atma means the self. Atma means the soul. Atma also means the body. Atma means the mind, right? So this is just protection of one's being. Ātma-raksha, and it's usually, there's different puja books will have different mantras, but this is a very common one. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Swaha. Durge Durge. Oh Durga Durga. Durga is the protector. Right? She overcomes all suffering, all difficulties. Actually better. Durga means difficulty. So Durga Durga Rakshini. Oh Durga, the protectress. Or protect me is another way of saying it. Swaha. Om Am Hum Tat Swaha. These are dealing with, we've talked about Hum Pat and these different mantras already, so I won't spend much time on it. So then we're working our way up to is bhūta-śuddhi. That's the main core of the purification and puja, the purification of the self, purification of the elements. That's our main topic today. And often in daily puja, the next section I'll kind of skip before I just get to bhūta-śuddhi, because everything stops and sometimes you need to move, and that's a pranayama series. And part of bhūta-śuddhi has pranayama in it, but there's a pranayama usually done before bhūta-śuddhi. And actually it says in the Mahānabhāna Tantra that without pranayama, puja has no effect. There's one mantra like that. It also says by the abundance of pranayama, there's abundance of fruit in puja. Right? It's like the abundance of nyasa, the abundant fruit. There's mantras like this. There's a mantra, I don't have these verses in front of me right now, but there's a mantra that says in the tantric text, I remember the text, so it might come to me if I keep talking, that just like, like a, what are they called, chain mails? What are those coats of metal, like chain, that it's to protect against chain, that's chainmail, right? So imagine we have our sins, the result of that are like a heavy chainmail coat. This is by pranayama, it's removed. There's lots of mantras like that describing the glory that the things are removed. And pranayama, let's see here. And so in actually you'll see if you go to you go to a really Orthodox South Indian Vaishnava temple or Shaivite temple, you'll see, or if you ever attend a puja or a Hindu wedding, and the pujari at one point he'll do sometimes it's only inhalation, holding, exhalation, stop. Right? They don't do like this whole series like we would usually do as pranayama, nadi shodhana, and all those types of things that we would do. But minimally, because actually there's a verse that says that pranayama is with the Gayatri mantra, one's going in, one's holding, one time out. Right? The long form of the Gayatri mantra, that's a 64-syllable mantra. That's the Om Buhur, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam, Om Sat. There's a longer form of the mantra that's mentioned. And that's often used, the long form of the Gayatri mantra is mentioned in the Vedic text and Tantric text is the mantra for pranayama. And so that's a very common thing. In the Tantric Puja, that's usually not the one that's done. Instead, what's done is we still do it with a mantra and visualization. We do it with the Bij mantra of the deity. Like some people will chant Om, chant Om in, holding, out with mantra Om. Some texts will say that type of pranayama is for sannyasis. Sannyasis chant Om with pranayama. Others chant other mantras. And there's two types of pranayama. One is with mantra and one's without mantra. Right? Sa mantra and nir mantra. Or sometimes it's with not only a mantra, sometimes it's with a visualization. Like Swami Ramatirtha in one of his books 1903, 1904, one of his lectures. He says, when you breathe, don't just breathe, bring your mind into it. Breathe, like imagine breathing in cosmic power, right? And breathe out all duality. I mean, you can do this type of, you can make it auspicious, not just breathing with some conception. All right, 1 second here. You know, that they call that in the Shastra, that when you do pranayama with an auspicious mental visualization or with mantra, they call it sagarbha, right? Sagarbha means like with the womb, or with garbha means womb, garbha means secret, garbha means hidden. You know, this is like an internal. It's not just breathing or manipulating prana. It's doing some subtlety within. So this in this pranayama and puja is done with its sagarbha. It's done with a deep concentration, a deep visualization with mantra. And so it's done. Maybe people know this, like this. What they call it? We sometimes call it nadi shodhana, right? The purification of nadis. This is not exactly, but it's the same pattern. And the pattern is inhalation, holding, and exhalation in a pattern of 2, 8, 4, or 4, 8, 16, or 8, 6, 30, 64, 32. Anyway, you know, the whatever it is. Actually, the proper amount that should be at the top should be 64, as mentioned. Right. This is called. There's also in the Tantra it mentions there's inferior pranayama, there's middle pranayama, and superior pranayama. So I am unfortunately still in the inferior pranayama. I don't have the lung power, but that means the holding should be 64, which means the exhalation should be 32. I mean the inhalation should be half of 32 is 15, 16. Thank you. I was a liberal arts major. Religious studies major requires no math. Now it does, but at that time, back in the day, you could sneak without almost any math. It's the only reason I went into this life, in this particular profession. Otherwise, I said I couldn't make it in any other profession. But I have to at least have to count to 16. That's the highest math I need is to count to 16, right? And so it's done with the Bij mantra, and there's a. Let me find here a picture. It's done with there's a mudra called Vishnu mudra. Vishnu like a V, you know, it's like the Vishnu tilak. That's what's usually done. And sometimes it's we're taught in our ashram. When we were taught pranayama from our ashram, we do it with how do we do it? With the middle finger kind of touching the third eye, and use that as the kind of foundation, and then the other two move this way, right? It's either like this or like we did it. The way I was taught, my Guruji was like this, so we tend to do it that way. Also has something that stabilizes but also stimulates what you're trying to do. As you're manipulating Ida and Pingala, you're trying to bring the attention to the Agna Chakra, right? Therefore, where the three meet, which is the day we were supposed to close for the fire, we got the biggest crowd. We're actually thinking, well, probably nobody's going to come. We should cancel because of the fire. It's weird how this happens. Sometimes there's 4 of us. Anyways, see what it all means. And so, and there's a reason why this balance between there's as far as there's usually warnings about pranayama, and this is Swami Vivekananda was very careful that he never taught pranayama publicly. There's no talk where he mentions pranayama and the importance of it. In his Raja Yoga, he goes great detail in many talks he gave, but he never talked about it directly because he believed that it was potentially dangerous, right? But nowadays, I mean, it's still potentially. Now it is actually not potentially. Now it actually is dangerous. The potential has been fully manifested, and everybody's learning pranayama in yoga classes at school. You know, in classes that we did pranayama at OC's Orange Coast College yoga class. Like going, okay, I guess it's okay. You know? I was wondering, you know. But most of the time, it's actually not that dangerous because nobody's doing anything that intense, right? But there is a potential danger. It's like, you know, this house has been wired by an expert, right? And so we wouldn't go in and start rewiring it without a good reason, right? Without a good reason and without proper knowledge, right? You know, so and so our nervous system has been wired a certain way by the maker of our body, by nature herself. And so we start manipulating it. We should have a good reason to do so, not just because they teach it at the yoga class, right? It should be a good reason to do it, and we should also, and if we're doing it for a good reason, right, we should do it carefully and know what we're doing, right? And so the way we were taught in our ashram in India, in Allahabad, is that there's other preparatory practices that are done, other forms of pranayama, Bhastrika pranayama and Kapilbhati pranayama, these other type of preparatory. They're also potentially dangerous. They can be done to build your system and and purify the nadis to hold an inflow of prana in a certain way. And he said, if you do this for a long time, even if you do it like consistently without break for a month properly, not dangerous and nothing too dangerous, and then they call it alum bilum, which is alternate nostril with no retention, right? And usually we do it with a equal in, equal out, equal in, equal out. If you do that for 30 days, 40 days, regularly with no break, right, and with no problem, right, with no strain, right, that you naturally build your system like that, then you switch to inhalation, exhalation. Exhalation becomes double, right? That begins to change your. There's a reason for that. When it does something to your brain waves, if that's the right word. I'm not sure. I can't give a neurological evidence of this, but this is the belief, right? That the balances Ida and Pingala and does some things, but also this switch creates. If you ever experimented with pranayama, you'll see it's like, whoa. At the end of which you're like, whoa, right? That your mind is different, your consciousness is different. You're very internalized, it's like a little bit surprising what it does to your awareness. There's a reason for that. If you do that for 30, 40 days without break, right? Then this nadi sodana pranayama, where you inhale and exhale and retain, right? That potentially danger can be done safely. Our Guruji says, right? And Swami Shivananda also, he was in just today. I was looking at a small book he has a book called The Practice of Pranayama. It's always good to look to Swami Shivananda. He was and people, one question and answer part of it, somebody he says, isn't this dangerous? He goes, yes, it's dangerous, but you shouldn't be people are too worried about these things, right? Just do it consciously, carefully. And part of it, one of the reasons also that it's potentially dangerous is that it can make the mind, unstable. Because in that 5 kosha system, we didn't really talk about that. We won't have time to talk about it so much. But underneath the thing that supports our mind, prana is one of the things that supports the mind. If you affect prana, you're going to affect the mind. Right. So you have to be that's one thing you have to be a little careful, not to make the mind unstable. And one of the ways to keep the mind stable when you're doing pranayama or any type of energetic practice, tantric practice by definition energetic, and therefore potentially disrupting, is sometimes it's just a mental attitude to be grounded and not let your mind be disrupted. What happens a lot in Western yoga tradition is that we think being unbalanced and airy and flighty and spacey as the goal. That's the sign of our spiritual advancement, to be spacey, right? But the exact opposite. The goal is to be grounded, right? And you can see all the things we've done in puja is about purification of seat and there's all these things. And as you go into these more subtle astral, energetic things of bhūta-śuddhi, it ends also with like being grounded, right? Alum bilam also. Not only you go up, you also have to have a foundation to build that on. And Swami Chaitananda, very in a simple, wonderful way that I think about all the time, he tells people, he says, you have to have a calm stomach, cool head, act normal. Right? This is, and then with that, do your sadhana. Act normal. Just act normal. That was just like, but it really just a simple thing corrects so many things. Right, just act normal. Then you can. What happened? Because then, as things come up, and as you have internal dynamic experiences and movements and purification and breakthroughs, it doesn't get dramatized. If you dramatize it, it's gone. Right. But if you it's like you eat something you can't digest it, you throw it up and it's gone. But everybody knows. Look what I ate. Right. There's a weird thing back there, but it's not. Nobody needs to see that, and you just lost it. Literally, you lost your. We even use this type of language. You lost your lunch, right? You couldn't hold it down. This type of we use this type of language. But if you digest it, you hold it in a little bit. You don't dramatize it, right? Then you digest it. It builds you. It's that becomes one of the things that nourishes you, and then you can handle the next thing. Your nerves become stronger. Your mind becomes stronger. Your pranas become stronger. You can hold more. It's also a good thing is that's one of the things is that in general we're not to show too much spiritual there's external manifestations that happen in people's meditation stages. There's external kriyas and things like that, and some traditions emphasize that. We're taught actually to hold it down as best possible, even not to show too much external emotion of our internal emotion externally, because it's the same person to hold it and to digest it. And you can see if you're trying to hold something down, still, like, it will overflow. If something, if you have milk overblown, you have a bunch of boiling milk on the stove, right? And it begins to overboil. What you do, you put a lid on it. You do the best you can, right? Still, it's gonna, right? Because then it's against even though you've been trying to control it, it still overflows, right? So that happens in spiritual life also. In spite of having a tendency to be normal, act normal and hold it in and not like that, still things, the sattvika bhavas and these different symptoms come, right? Or, in spite of not trying to overly emphasize our spiritual emotions, still tears come, or, and shout, then that's an authentic thing, right? Because it's, in spite of you trying to hold it, it still overflows, right? Maybe the pot's not big enough yet, you have to, but it's not, it's part of it. So pranayama, I think a lot of the pranayama practice, a lot of stuff can be corrected by the simple act of act normal and trying to hold it like this. Sometimes people don't write me anymore because I don't think people want to know my opinion about anything, which is good for me, right? But a long time ago, people would write me a lot of people oh, I'm having this experience, my kundalini is awakened, I'm doing pranayama now, I'm kundalini and I'm having this experience, and you'd let it write back as these are the symptoms of improper practice. Right, not like, oh my God, you're having these deep realizations, and I should encourage you. It could be, right? But the texts actually show that what you're doing, whatever you're doing that's causing that, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And why are you doing it? Right? There are good reasons to do it, and this shouldn't be the symptoms. There are deep symptoms, but often, so anyways, people don't like that answer, but like a lot of people, they kundalini experience. These are actually pranic experiences, and these are, anyways, it's a different topic, but it's there's a danger in pranayama, and in puja also there's a danger. This is the part that's potentially a little disturbing, and so in the puja, not much pranayama is done. It's 3 rounds of pranayama, so it's only 3 breaths, which means 3 breaths, 6. Inhalation, inhalation, right? But it's sagarbha. It's very intense, right? Because it's being done with mantras, not just with mantras and concentration. It's done with bij mantras, and not just any bij mantra. Here, because the Kali Puja, we're doing the Kali bij mantra, and the Kali bij mantra has a potential danger. Another potential danger is that it's living. We talked last week about how mantras have to be, especially bij mantras. They're unless they're received properly through initiation, unless they're chanted a certain amount, a certain way, with a certain amount of purity, they don't become alive. There's a term coming in the next section called the kilakam. There's believed that every mantra has a pin that holds it together. I sometimes think of it as a grenade pin, right? It's like something to hold it. A grenade is just a thing unless you pull the pin. Right? You pull the pin, now now the power can be manifested quickly, right, and very dramatically, right? And so most mantras, the pin is in there. It has to be removed. Either it's removed and handed to you, that's called diksha, right? Or it's by tremendous amount of called purificaiton, where you chant the mantra 100,000 times per syllable with all these rules over 40. There's a science for it given in the Tantra Shastra called mantra purificaiton, ways to awaken a mantra like this, or by just one's spiritual intensity, right? Sri Ramakrishna heard a mantra once and immediately it exploded in his consciousness. He had he was ready for it. His mind was so ready for these things. But the Kali Bij mantra, this cream, is considered already awake. Doesn't need any process to awake, right? And that's when one of the benefits, one of the dangers that the things that usually protect mantra, the power of mantras from manifesting. Most people, they chant all they want and there's not much danger. But with Kali, there's an immediate response. And one of the benefits of that is that you whether you have faith, whether you have a lot of meditation, whether you're pure, whether you have a lot of like past life experience with, but you go to a Kali temple, it's like, whoa, there's an immediate response. It's a living. There's a mantra. What is it? Kali Yuga, Kali Jagarat or something. There's a mantra like that. That in Kali Yuga, all the devas are sleeping. Hate to tell everybody, in Kali Yuga, it's like winter. In winter, most things are asleep. Not much of nature itself goes to sleep. Bears hibernate and plants pull their energy in like this, right? So it says in Kali Yuga, this is the winter of the yugas of the cycle. So the devas themselves are asleep. It says in the Shastra, right? But two are awake in Kali Yuga. Sri Ramakrishna would repeat this mantra a lot. He'd point this out. He says, Kali is awake. And, anybody know the second? No. She was asleep underneath Ma. What are you talking about? Even the image, she was asleep underneath Ma. Right? Baby Krishna, Gopal. Interesting. Not Krishna, baby Krishna. These are the two of that baby. And you see, these are the immediately responsive. But her Bij mantra is also incredibly responsive. So this is the Sagarbha pranayama, where mantra is chanted and counted. Usually counted with the fingers, counting, let's say 4, holding 16, exhaling 8, inhaling 4, holding 16, exhaling 8. But with this mantra. And the rhythm of the mantra is usually roughly to the rhythm of one's own pulse. There's a natural rhythm within. It's a natural type of thing. And so it's short but very, very intense. And another reason why it's done with the mantra is that you're tuning. Not only are you balancing and awakening and Ida and Pingala in order to prepare for the bhūta-śuddhi, this internal tantric practice that follows. You're also tuning everything to the same sound of the deity. You're connecting it with the Bij mantra. Your breath itself is becoming the Bij mantra. Everything is connected like this. So it's a very intense type of thing. And then comes the actual bhūta-śuddhi. The bhūta-śuddhi, there's a mantra. So bhūta-śuddhi, bhūta means spirit, like a ghost would be a bhūta. Right? Bhūta means like the self, like this type of like one's essential nature. Bhūta, but another meaning of bhūta means elements, like earth, fire, water, air, ether. These are the bhūta, Panch-bhūta we call it, right? Right. But if there's a ghost, we call it we're boot action. We sometimes say that's how we have a code word. Boot action lately. It's like we're some weird subtle thing. But also we use the word even. You can see how those words are connected. I think we mentioned a few weeks ago that we say, there's elementals, elemental spirit. These even with the element, we can see how there's a crossover between the idea of like ghost and elements, or energies, or spirits, or deities, and like that. But here Bhūta will take the primary meaning of elements. So bhūta-śuddhi means, therefore, purification of the elements, right? And so, but this is also, bhūta-śuddhi also means one's purification of one's own being. So how does purifying one's own self and purifying the elements, how are they the same thing? Right. So the first there's a couple of things. There's a mantra called the bhūta-śuddhi mantra. It's in the small book. It's a 4-verse mantra, 4 sections of the mantra. It itself encapsulates the whole thing, and then there's a set of visualizations or prānāyāmas or meditation that in one sense does what the mantra says. But the mantra itself does it. If I say Om, like I bow to Shiva, and then I can say Om Namah Shivaya, and then I can take something and then I can go and bow to Shiva. right? Or I could vision myself bowing to Shiva. But saying it also saying I bow to Shiva is bowing to Shiva. So saying the mantra, in a certain sense, does bhūta-śuddhi. It does what it's supposed to do. But then we can go back and unpack it and try to visual and do it very consciously, right? So the first mantra I'll say, Om Bhutra Shinga Shashiraha Shushumnapatena Jiva Shivam Paramashiva Parayojayami Swaha. So, because this is essentially a tantric practice, it's going to use the system of the chakra, the idea of the kundalini and the chakras. So that's good. And so now the question is, where are the chakras? Of course, we know. You can see a book. I can see it right there in the book. No question, right? But are they really there? You know, Muladhara chakra to the base of the spine. Second chakra. We know where they're supposed to be, right? And maybe they're there. You know, Swami Shivananda said you can dissect them and you don't find them. He says he was a medical doctor. He's dissected cadavers and never found exactly a chakra, right? There's clusters of nerves in that area. There's, plexus and things like that. So there's not unrelated, but they're not exactly the chakras. So the general idea is that the physical body is strung on the scaffolding or the infrastructure of the astral body, the energetic body, right? The subtle body or the subtle anatomy. So that's one way we could think of it. But it could also not be true at all. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, right? Because in the ancient text, even the ancient tantras, there's no mention of the Sat-chakra system. The 6 chakras that came into existence, we know a certain date when I don't remember right offhand, but there's scholarship on this. It's not hard to think about. I mean, we know the date where the first text first mentioned them, right? And maybe, they've been discovered at that time, and now they really work because now we've discovered the system. But they've always been there, but we've never discovered. That could be, right? Or it's a way that could be, and I don't doubt that. I think that's probably true. But even if it's not true, this is whatever it is. This is a map of dealing with very deep, subtle things, right? Right. We don't know how to deal with the elements that go to make up the container of our consciousness. We don't know what that. I mean, I just said that. I was like, wow, I'm very impressed with how you came up with that. I just composed a very sophisticated idea, right? But we don't know what that is, right? But we can visualize it, right? And we can connect with it energetically, mentally, visually, and therefore deal with very subtle things by attributing, by working with a map. It's a tantric map for our internal world, right? And you could say, like Muladhara, as the tantras became more developed, they're not just like different lotuses or centers or wheels. They become yantras with colors and deities, and each deity has a mount, and then there's other animal that supports that mount, and then each chakra has different letters. The letters also have the matrikas, and they have their consorts, and their it gets very very elaborate. It's a classic tantric visualization. Right, but even that in the Muladhara chakra, there's the deity, presiding deity is Ganesha. We mentioned that the very first talk in the puja, right? He's the one who guards the Muladhara, and we've talked a lot about that. But there's another animal in the Muladhara, and that's a crocodile or an alligator. Crocodile, probably Indian is crocodile, I think, right? Probably crocodile, right? I don't think there's alligators in India, right? So what's a crocodile? Very interesting. A crocodile lurks, right? That's the thing. It's unseen. You know he's there, and we know potentially he's dangerous, but they're not seen. Anytime they can come up and grab you. Interesting. People who lived in Florida or in Rampriyada's in South Carolina, you walk along the river, you take your dog for a walk. You're always conscious. You have to be a little conscious how close you get to the water, right? Because you never know. There could be, with a little Chihuahua on the leash, they're easy prey. It's like people lose their dogs this way. People lose their kids this way. You never know. Even people swim in these lakes and rivers, right? But they know. But they do. Imagine what you do. They swim, they surf, or they boat, or they But they're always a little conscious that there's unknown danger just below, right? So that's one of the visualizations. So in modern psychological way of thinking it, we would think of the Muladhara to be like the unconscious. It's the pool of the unconscious, right? Where we have unseen drives, unseen desires, fears, anxieties, these things that go to make up. So that's that. So I mean, we modern people would have a different language. We'd use the language of the psychology of the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind, and these type of things, right? Yogis have this. They deal with it visually, imagery, whose mantras and images and deities and yantras, right? It's another way of dealing with it. And in one sense, one of the things we're going to say is it's a very good way. We'll talk at towards the end that it's in a certain sense better than the psychological pattern. I'll explain how. So we have the each chakra is and the idea of chakras and kundalini, and one way to consider the chakras and the elements. You imagine you have infinite consciousness, whatever that is. Can you imagine infinite consciousness, right? If you were to say something infinite and then give it some sort of limit, right? So you have the idea of something infinite, all-pervading, infinite, all-powerful, all-expanding, all without, and give it some shape or some quality. The first thing we can do, one thing we could do, we can say, oh, that's mind, and think we can go like that. But let's get into the elements. It's the element of akasha, or akash, space. Right, space is something, but it's nothing. Right, there's nothing. But you can describe it. You're describing something that's not really a thing, but you can describe it so it's a thing. Right. So and these elements are not the periodic table of elements. This is 5 elements, not whatever we have nowadays. We have one. Berkelium. There's one that was created in Berkeley. I mean, it existed for I think 10,000ths of a second, and it's but it happened in Berkelium. So we'll start with space. So then that's one idea. So you have infinite, the infinite being somehow or another limited, but the infinite can't be limited. It's just a way of talking, right? It's a way of analyzing something, right? It's a way of describing our experience. If you take that infinite something or space and begin to limit it more, right? So these aren't chemical descriptions; these are experiential descriptions. Then you have air. Air is like space that's more tangible, right? You feel a breeze, right? You can blow air into a balloon, right? And it's like it's something, although it's nothing. It's something. So space, air. You take air and you compress it. What happens if you take air and compress it? It gets hot. Right, you compress anything, becomes hot. Then you have fire, right? So it's another limiting of consciousness. You compress it, you compress fire, and this is an ancient world. It's maybe not exactly a biological description or chemical description, but you end up with condensation, right? If you compress more, you end up with liquid. This is the idea, or water, right? And you have water, and you compress it more, you slow it down, you limit it, becomes solid, ice, earth. So space, air, fire, water, earth, right? So this is infinite consciousness as if being limited. So if you take something infinite and you shove it into a tiny little, remember that from the Aladdin, infinite power, tiny itty bitty living space in the movie Aladdin. It's like something when you put a genie in a bottle or something, right? Is cosmic, tremendous, and you limit it. So that's another way of looking at it. If you take something like an infinite spring and close it, you've made a spring into like you open a box and the snakes come, Jack in the Box, like you can, and that's actually one of the reasons why the Kundalini is visualized as coiled. The idea that it's being condensed, and then if you release it, what happens? It comes undone, right? So the whole thing is being shoved down, and locked into place underneath the Muladhara chakra. Then we sit it up and we sit right on top of it, like, okay, everything's fine, nothing can go wrong. Exactly, right. So what is it? It's infinite consciousness trapped in matter. Of course, infinite consciousness is never trapped in matter. Infinite consciousness is infinite. Actually, matter is a speck in the ocean of infinite consciousness. all matter, all trillions of billions of universes, the speck floating in infinite consciousness. But that's not our experience. That may be the ultimate experience. Right now, we feel that infinite seems to be trapped. For this first mantra, bhūta-śuddhi chashiraha shushumnapatena, enmeshed, trapped, locked, bound in the elements. That's the first mantra. Or another way, a simple thing, bound in body consciousness. That's another way of saying it, right? Or bound in material consciousness. That's another way of saying it. That's the same thing. Material consciousness, body consciousness, yogically or astrally or visualized as a kundalini trapped underneath Muladhara, underneath matter, underneath earth. So, Shushumna Patena, Jiva Shivam, Padama Shiva. Jiva Shivam, the individual self, and Padama Shiva, supreme self. Right? Padayodhyami, I want to connect. I make a union between Jiva Shivam and Padama Shiva, the individual self and the infinite self, right? Through the path of Shushumna, right? So that means right now, trapped in the elements or trapped in Muladhara, right? I bring the individual and unite it with the supreme, right? So in other words, as soon as you undo it, that spring comes undone, and then you have the full. In the Chandi, remember that when Ma Kali first showed up, as Kaushiki, right? The gods go to the Himalayas and they pray Yadevi Sarvabhuteshu, all these prayers, right? And then some lady comes and sits down on a rock near the river, right, and near the Ganga, and she gets, and they see her and says, "Oh, how did I get here?" Right, and something like that. He says, "Oh, what's that? Who are you? That's right. Thank you. Who are you worshiping? Right? Who are you singing to?" Of course, they're singing to the goddess who exists everywhere, right? The universal goddess who's everything, Chaitanya Rupa, Matri Rupa, Shakti Rupa, all that beautiful litany, right? The universal God, the universal conscious they're praying to. He says, "Who are you praying to?" "It's me you're praying to," she answers, right? It says, "You who've been kicked out of heaven by the demons, right? Who have been reduced to nothing. You're praying to me, right?" And then it says, then she came out of a sheath. Then from her came another form, and they call it Kaushiki, means she who comes unsheathed. Now, tantrics have understood this to be reference to Kundalini, right? That comes out of this bhūta-śuddhi, not trapped in the elements, now untrapped, taken out of the sheath, Kaushiki. And what is described? Then it describes her as her feet touch the earth and her crown scrapes the heaven. Right, that's the image. This is bhūta-śuddhi Shushumna Patena. Enmeshed in the elements from the base chakra to the path of Shushumna, I raise the individual soul and united with Supreme Shiva in the lotus of the head. This is exactly describing that. She comes up. This is the moment of. So that's it. Describing one mantra describes our problem, trapped in the elements, what we need to do, and how to do it. The path of Shushumna from the base chakra to the top, right? And we need to undo. We need to bring her up. Right, and this is swaha. Swaha, we pour ghee, right? So actually, these four mantras are fire ceremony mantras, right? These are, and actually in the sannyas, right, there's a thing called viraj homa, where a version of this is done, where we offer the different elements, the different koshas, the different pranas, all these different things into the fire to be transformed. This is a daily sannyas ceremony, right? The whole world must be destroyed so that consciousness become free, right? And so what are we pouring? We're pouring into which fire? We have a fire within us. That's the fire. We have a kundalini. We have a fire pit of consciousness. Chiragni kunda sambhuta. She exists in the fire pit of consciousness, right? At the base of the spine. She is that kundalini. She is that. So we're pouring, and when you pour ghee into the fire, what happens? Comes up, shines up, right? That shining, when you pour ghee into the fire and the fire blasts up, that's, again, the symbol or a recreation of this awakening of kundalini. And so we're pouring our attention, we're pouring our awareness into the fire pit of consciousness, like this, swaha. Om bhūta-śuddhi shushumna patena. So what do we want to do? The problem is the container that's holding everything in, is the material body and material consciousness. It's not our physical body actually, right? It's our mental body, it's our astral body, right? It's at the deepest level. Our mistake is not the body is fine. There's saints who have bodies and they have infinite consciousness. So it's not the body that's the problem, right? It's our consciousness that's the problem, not the body, right? Sri Ramakrishna had a body, Ramana Maharsha had a body, Nanda Mall had a body, and they had infinite consciousness, right? So it's the body's not the problem. We don't have to destroy the body, right? We have to destroy body consciousness, and that's based upon this. They call it linga sharira, our subtle body, or what's the other one? Sankocha Sharira, the causal body. These are terms in modern thing. These are just we consider the subtle body, right? And which is the mind, the prana, the like this. These go to make up the energetic subtle body, to which the physical body is the outermost manifestation. So that's what we have to burn. That's what we put into the fire. That's the wood. That's the samagri we're throwing in to be burned. So if you're going to burn something, you can't just throw a wet fruit into a fire. You need to you use dry wood, right? You dry rice, dry leaves, right? If you want to throw tulsi into the fire, you dry the leaves and then you throw it into the fire, right? So first you have to dry. So there's a mantra for air, is the bij mantra for air, just like the deities have bij mantras, the elements have bij mantras. The bij mantra for air is yam, right? And so om yam linga shariram shoshaya shoshaya swaha. O air, invoking the air principle. Linga, the subtle body, dry up, swaha. Then om ram against, just like we hit ram, is fire. O fire, we're invoking fire. This causal body, burn up, swaha. Right? You're burning, so you're transforming, you're drying and burning your body. And the final mantra is the supreme goal of the whole process. Om Parama Shiva Shushumna Patena. O Supreme Shiva. Right? Shushumna Patena. Through the path. Patena, pat means path. Right? We get the word path from it. Shushumna Patena. Through the path of the Shushumna. Right? Mula Shingata. From the base, Mula, to the crown. Right? Just like her feet touch the crown, her crown scrapes the sky. O Lord Shiva, through the path of Shushumna, from the base chakra to the crown chakra. Right? Then it says Ulassa, Jwala, Prajwala. These don't have proper translations. They all mean shine, burn, radiate, illumine, shine, illumine, burn, like this, daha, right? In other words, you want the light from the base to the top, just shine, burn, radiate, right? That's the ultimate. That's the awakened person. That's the awakened Kundalini. That's the liberated consciousness, no longer trapped in matter, therefore or no longer trapped in the Muladhara, right? But now in union with Shiva, right? And so it's another thing. Paramashiva, in the Kundalini system, we think in the base of the spine we have Devi, right? Trapped, right? In her Gaurikund, taking her bath in Gaurikund, right? And and Shiva lives up, ignoring everything, lost in the Himalayas. Right, we have our own Himalaya. We can go to the place where Gauri is sleeping, right? And you can also go to the place where Shiva is meditating, right? But also you can do that. That's expensive and difficult, and you need special permission from the Chinese government now, so it's even more complicated, right? You've added the Chinese government into it. It's even more complicated than before, right? Or you can also do it internally, because we have such a place at the base of the spine, and we have such a place where Shiva lives. He lives visualized at the top of the head. Right, this is the Mount Meru. Meru Danda is the Meru mountain is the spine itself, and Shiva lives like that. So we want to unite. Another way of saying to unite the individual to the supreme is to unite Devi with Shiva. Right, that's the energetic description of it. Which means that right now Devi is at the base and Shiva is on top. If you look at this image of Ma, this is the image of the reverse. Ma standing on top of Shiva. She's come up completely. Shiva's here, and Ma's on top. This is a sign also. Has many meanings. This the image of Ma and Shiva, right? But this is one important for a yogi. This is the symbol of awakened consciousness or awakened Kundalini, right? She's in union with the Lord. She's on top. She's standing now fully, right? So, in beyond duality in many sense. So that's. See how we do. We'll just end right there. Thank you very much. Now, so that this mantra, this four verse mantra, it's in one sense, if you could just do it with consciousness, that's what's in the small book. The mantra is given with the translation and a little bit of a footnote that describes some of the details. And it's theoretically that's sufficient, right? Just saying Om Namah Shivaya is sufficient. I bow to Shiva or Shiva Shivaya, O Shiva, Namaha, not me. Right? That's also bhūta-śuddhi. Right? You're affirming infinite consciousness and leaving separated consciousness behind. Namaha, not me. That's where it comes from. The word namam. Right? Right? So that itself is bhūta-śuddhi. Or Thakur said, thou, not I, not I. That's also bhūta-śuddhi. Right? Or even says, oh, we say, oh, I'm a soul in a body. I don't have a body. Even those type of things are types of bhūta-śuddhi. In the Vaishnava Tantra, on the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's one important Gaudiya Vaishnava text. It describes the bhūta-śuddhi is given differently because they don't visualize the same kundalini and chakras, and they also don't start with the idea that we're non-different from Shiva or like this because it's a dualistic system, right? So they say so what is it that goes to make up our body consciousness? It's called varnashram. We have 4 stages of life and 4 arrays. So we have the 4. We can be brahmacharis, we can be householders, we can be retired, we can be monastics, we can be brahmins, we can be kshatras, we can be sudras, we can be all these different ways of our stages of life that are part of our identity and define our dharma, and our relationships, our positions in society. That's a way of saying it. So there's a mantra that says, I am not actually, the truth is, I'm not a Brahmin, and I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Sudra, I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm not a Grihastha, I'm not a Vanaprastha, I'm not a Sannyasi. Right? So it's like, I am in fact, instead, in reality, a servant of the servant of Lord Krishna, at the feet of Lord Krishna, something like this, some version like this, right? That's what you identify. That's also bhūta-śuddhi. You're not this body, you're not its identifications, right? We're spiritual. Whatever spiritual, different sects and different traditions have a different idea what it means to be. Our spiritual identity may be different. This is using a tantric form, which is non-dualistic in its nature. So it's using, like we're one with Shiva, right? But it's the same thing. It's still that's still considered bhūta-śuddhi. The part of the puja in the Hari Bhakti Vilas is identifying I'm a spirit. I'm not just a spiritual. I'm a devotee of. I'm part and parcel. I'm a devotee, servant, eternally related to God. I'm not this body. I'm not its relationships and stages of life. Right. That itself is a great bhūta-śuddhi. There's a another point that's part of the bhūta-śuddhi conception is that consciousness doesn't have normal description of qualities. You can say, oh, consciousness is infinite, but consciousness is beyond qualities. So even infinite is it's what one person said, it's beyond description, but it's best described as. I like this term, right? Consciousness is beyond description, but it's best described as infinite. Right, so we could use that's a good description. It's not accurate because it's beyond description. These are like that. So I like this idea. So it doesn't have any qualities of a normal. So it doesn't have shape, color, name, nama, rupa, and guna. Right, but it seems to take on the qualities, shape, nama, rupa, and guna of its seeming container, like water. Water within a I don't have a cup here, but if you have a cup or a mug, the water or the air inside of a mug, it's not. We think, oh, it's mug shaped, right? But it's not mug shaped. It's just that's convenient, right? It's infinite. We've separated part of it and we call that mug shape. So by changing, by removing, by ignoring, removing, transcending. How's it going?
I kind of would like to make an announcement.
Okay.
There's so many cars coming.
Okay.
Non-stop. We
Okay.
cannot block the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because there's a huge fire raging with 0% containment.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So I would say people turn on.
Yeah, we should end. Then we continue. We can pick this up next week. Then,
We can
God
pick
willing.
this up next week, and whoever comes.
We should clear because
We should really clear because if there's an emergency and the wind shifts and the fire department has to come through and there's everywhere.
There's been over 100 acres burnt.
Yeah, and it's
Zero containment.
Zero contained.
And it's not that far.
No, it's very close.
Yeah.
It's near
And between us and them is only dry brush. That's a problem.
All
So
of top of the world has been evacuated. So they're evacuating people in Laguna. So if we have a whole street full of cars,
it may be.
very, very bad.
Yeah.
So please don't.
Okay, we'll end. Anyway, this is a good place to end.